All right, we should be starting. I think you can hear me. The last one was a little quiet, so let me boost this here. Whoops, that turned it off. Properties. Okay, all right, I gotta go into recording devices. Yeah, should be louder. Okay, there we go. That should be louder. So I shall put up the links on the Twitter and the Facebook, and then we will do the Feedback Friday song that people love. There we go. Share. Twitter. Streaming live now. Talking. Far Cry 5. And delete. Tweet. Hello, peoples. Hello to people watching now. We're just getting started. Streaming live. Now talking. Far Cry 5. Alright. Post. There we go. There we go. Alright. It says one message, but no messages are showing up. Oh, there we go. Okay. Now I can start. It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. Ha! Jazz hands. And you may have seen the epic fail that was attempted at the live stream last night. Yeah, let me talk about what happened there. Obviously, Hooters was a new location for us. I was not able to do the location shoot, and there was no speed test done on the location in advance. And so, yeah, when I did the speed test, when I was there, it was 0.99 megabits per second upload. Cabbage Patch face. Yeah, obviously not enough to stream to Facebook Live. Not even enough to stream to YouTube. YouTube has better. So I did those two little bits on my phone, but then my phone started overheating, which was really weird. That does happen sometimes when you use the extended cameras. But yeah, so that's what happened yesterday. So I'm doing a make good today. Yay. Hopefully we can do... need jazzier jazz hands? Jazz hands. You see how red my hands are? Yeah, that's not good. I won't get into why it's like that though. But you'll see on the Kickstarter, very, very close to that first stretch goal of the extra episodes. So close. It's killing me. So if you haven't backed yet and you'll do it on the stream, it would be greatly appreciated. Oh yeah, I have to check the backer report to see if anybody took us up on the offer last night. I'm not sure it was, oh, perhaps two people did. When did this come in? It doesn't say times. Okay, so yes, we have our two people. What happened, I'm going to make a note of that. Kickstarter backer at a higher tier. This camera. Oh, now I have to put a link. It actually is a really good webcam. It's a Logitech, but it's the 930C model. So it's the video conferencing one with the remote control stuff. So it's much better than the regular. It's the way you can tell the difference between this and the 920 regular run-of-the-mill consumer model is the 920 has a blue light little ringy ding thing, whereas the 930 has a white light around the edges. I'm sure they've upgraded it, but it does great 1080p, and it does, the problem I have with it is it sometimes does track. It's pretty cool on Skype. It starts having a mind of its own But yeah, so that's what's going on with that. Let me see if I can find an Amazon link for you guys. Where's everybody watching from? Are you US or Canada? Waiting. Waiting to see people say. Or not US or Canada. If it's neither US nor Canada, then it doesn't matter. I can just do the US link. No problem. I will do the US link. Just because I have it up. And of course, this is making the stream take a crap. But Logitech. Whoop, webcam. Messed that up. No, webcam. Huh. How can they not be selling it on... oh, here we are. I was wrong. It's the 930E USB desktop webcam. So let me get the link for you guys here. Shorten it. Here. Yes, this stream is a far cry from the last stream. Here's the Amazon link, guys. Link to the webcam I talked about. I'm putting it in the description now. There we go. So if you want to see what webcam it is, there it is. It's not super cheap, but it's not terribly expensive either. For this kind of stuff, it's awesome. The thing I will say about it is that you really have to watch your background light. Yeah, our phone's loud because we tend to be like in the basement, or I've got headsets on or something like that. So yeah, our phone is quite loud. And we still have a landline because I'm paranoid and don't like to just have cell phones. I like to have a landline in case of certain emergencies that might take cell towers down. Speaking of which, OMG Far Cry 5. If that segue makes no sense, it's because of the whole sort of, US militia cult kind of thing. I have been binge watching every video Ubisoft put out on it. Holy crap, looks so good. The one thing I don't like about it is they bleep the swearing in the official videos. And these are marketing videos. So if you're going to put swearing in it, why bleep it? But if you knew you'd have to bleep it, why put swearing in it? Why not redub it for that one moment for the marketing? Because they're powerful little vignettes, but every time that beep came off, it kicked me out of the drama because there was the awesome music and all that stuff, but then this is bleep and the moment is gone. Hey, I'll dial up. Hi, Helen. But yeah, my favorite moment, like my favorite kind of gameplay like moment, although it was game engine capture, which doesn't mean gameplay. No problem, right? We don't know how far along the game is. It seems like they've done a fair bit of development in it. But my favorite moment from a gameplay perspective, because it's like, this is Far Cry to me. There's that scene where you kind of drive by in a truck and a dude with a shotgun is being chased by a bear, and the bear looks like, oh, you think you're bad? Come on, guy with a shotgun. Come on, I want to eat some redneck. That's the Far Cry moment for me, because the moment I fell in love with Far Cry, it was Far Cry 3, I think, where I was, riding an elephant, storming this base with a tiger buddy, and the tiger was just going, bleh, and it was awesome. That's, yeah. That's a good point, Super Nerdland. He says, welcome to America. Kill all you want, no swearing or ass, though. That's bad. It's confusing for someone up here in Canada, because we don't have that sentiment, they run The Good Fight uncensored on the Women's Network at like 9 o'clock at night on Sundays when it was running. And that has like lots of swears. Basically, we have a community standards guideline in television that if you can do it on a public street up here, you can do it on TV. We don't have the guidelines that the FCC does. And so that's to, when people argue about outdated regulation and oppressive regulation and everything like that, that's what it's precisely designed to prevent is, okay, if community standards change, then the guidelines can just sort of naturally evolve. You don't have to go back and change the rules because that's constantly lagging behind. I'm the mechanics, someone in the chat asked, one person asked me how I am. I am super tired today. You may notice, look at these eyes, because of course, when we were at Hooters, just like the Hard Rock, it's near a window, and that window is actually an old garage door, and sure enough, somebody was smoking weed out there. So, Leanna, that's why my palms are red. That's because it's a circulation thing. My hands are all swollen too. That's why you'll see me farting with my ring, because and my face is all swollen, and it's just this big old histamine reaction. So that kind of sucked. But I'm here anyway because it's too bad we couldn't live stream yesterday because the conversations were awesome, but I'll get to that in a minute. The mechanics that they seem to be innovating in this one, based on the one teaser trailer. Let me see if I can find it. Not the teaser trailer, the first details thing. And I have watched this thing like 5 times to suck up every little detail. I cannot be impartial about this. I am a huge Far Cry fan. I am just going like ridiculous fangirl. I mean, Far Cry is the franchise that gave us Mountain Monday, which gave us Momo Monday. It was the first one. I'm like, mountain, breathe, oh dear. So here's the, that's not the right, what is going on? Why am I copy paste failing? Because I pasted. I didn't copy. Whoops. Can I? No, you can't undo. Oh, wow. I suck. Okay, wait, there's a share feature. There we go. Link. My cat's probably going, what? Poor Linky. Yeah, I'm allergic to weed, chat. It really sucks. There's the video I've been watching to suck up all the little details. And it's... The gameplay mechanics, they seem to be... and the nice thing for people like, I haven't played the past games, the amazing thing about the Far Cry franchise is every game is its own contained thing. There is no continuing story. There are little fart cry. I would play that, Theodore. You guys know about me and farts. I love me my farts. But, that reminds me. I wonder what happened to that game. I brought DOX Volleyball to Hooters last night, hoping to return it to the guy who said he was going to show up, but he just got a job at a game studio and was afraid to get in trouble for coming, which is totally understandable, but crap. The mechanics they seem to be experimenting with are the NPC, this is something Ubisoft's been working on for a while, since the first Watch Dogs. And Watch Dogs as a game kind of generally suffered, and Assassin's Creed Unity kind of suffered because they were working the bugs out of the games like the Hitman games have also worked on this, trying to make the people in the world seem like people instead of puppets that give you quests. They react and have opinions about things and that sort of stuff. Oh, yay, it did make it back. Yay, I didn't lose it. Brian, I didn't lose your game. But that seems to be the mechanics thing. I suspect there will not be as much climbing. I could be wrong, but I think it's going to be really, and what I like about the marketing for the game is they really set up, they released that trailer about the bad guys, but they released 3 little vignettes. It's in the same playlist as that link I put there, about some of the resistance people in the small town. And the thing I found kind of frustrating about it is it seems like a very kind of American Gothic kind of story, Southern Gothic, almost like Preacher inspired, the TV show Preacher, which was a comic book Preacher. Similar things like that tone, and kind of that revivalist tone. And people want to make it about current US politics, and there's no way they would be announcing a game that they only came up with at the end of 2016. It's just not. Games take a long time to develop. They could not put it together that quickly. But, and hey, good for Ubisoft. Their motion capture doesn't look terrifying. Ubisoft has some of the best motion capture in the business. It is so good. And part of that is they own their own space. But it looks so awesome. And I mean, the thing is, people are like, well, yeah, we did do the Feedback Friday song, but I can do it again if you want. Jazz hands with coffee. It's a very big coffee day. And Vegas mug too. Yeah. But I mean, people are saying it's political because of the resistance and the whole thing. What do you call the people resisting the cult? I hate it when things ruin words. When politics ruins words. Far Cry. Somebody mentioned microtransactions in the chat. I don't remember microtransactions in any Far Cry game. Far Cry, I mean, maybe they were there. I just didn't. The Far Cry games they're really great sandbox gameplay. And me saying that is a big deal because I'm so picky about sandbox gameplay. It really has to tell a story on its own. And like, yeah, some people are going to draw parallels with the whole resistance element, but we can't expect a game maker to put all this money into a very archetypical story. It's like probably they're going for more of a modern day Civil War kind of feeling than, it's the fight for the town. And this idea of resist becoming this buzzword. I really don't like the rhetoric coming from the left in response to Trump. The word resistance is fine, like resist, okay. I get what you say. It's gotten a bit cheeseball, but this whole idea of a revolution disturbs me, and I'll tell you why. And I am not saying you have to feel the same way. This is just my reaction to it. I'm not saying they should stop, okay? I just I'm trying to put this very delicately because I know this is a sensitive thing for some people. In revolutions, people get hurt. It is impossible to have this gigantic upheaval without there being casualties. Now, those might not necessarily be like physical casualties, like people actually getting killed, but people can lose their jobs, families can be torn apart. Revolution is something that you have to not enter into lightly. And right now, the Donald Trump White House just seems to be eating itself. What's there to resist? They're not really doing anything. It's a bunch of executive orders, and the best way to reverse executive order is to run candidates who will win and get a Democrat elected next election. They could just reverse all the executive orders. They just the same way Trump reversed all of Obama's executive orders. You know, there's no need to have this uprising because of executive orders. If they start actually mucking with other things and actually getting, things passed that will be harder to undo, then you can start talking about Vive la Revolution. But until then, I'm really trying to avoid just blurting it out, because I have this, it's partially because of where I grew up and how we did our absolute best to stop explosive rhetoric because there were gang members and things like that, and you didn't want people fighting in the streets. And you see a lot of black cinema now, and a lot of it is very much, hey, everybody's right, everybody's wrong, let's settle this with words. Let's not, one guy with a good idea really can make a difference, and then there's all this, freaking crap going on with, the revolution. The revolution is today. What revolution? What are you for? Are you trying to overthrow the government? Like, seriously, what? Why can't we have evolution instead of revolution? Because you know what happened after the French Revolution? Napoleon. Okay? Like, you tend to get this period of quite authoritarian rule after these uprisings. And people just go on about revolution, because it sounds exciting. And then they all go, oh, we didn't know that this was going to happen, when someone actually does something violent about it. And I'm not saying it's their fault. And yeah, Drew, revolution is a buzzword. But I know, I grew up in a neighborhood where it was like sort of Afro-Caribbean and Asian and Pakistani, Sri Lankan, people from Afghanistan, Somalia during the day. And then I went to a dance studio at night, and it was a whole bunch of Jewish and Italian ladies going, this is how we talk. If you tie our hands, it was actually funny. This one lady named Blue, her name was actually Blue, came to the Kickstarter party yesterday. She didn't know anybody there. She just walked in and said, I'm a closet feminist here. I'm here because I saw it on Facebook. I love what you're doing. But she said, she's part Italian, so she talks with your hands, but, I'm not that Italian because now I'm sitting on them and I'm still talking. But, she was really awesome. And the great thing, this is kind of a natural segue. Somebody in the chat asked about how I felt about Clinton comparing Nixon and Trump. I think people are making a little bit too big a deal about that. I think that was something of an ironic statement, because what she was actually referring to was when she had made her commencement address as a student. And that was really about the... It was exactly what it was, that they kind of rebelled during the commencement address because they were really mad at Nixon. That just happened. And this is when I start going, and I say this over and over and over again, and I hate that I have to, but people are so damn touchy. This is not a defense of Hillary Clinton one way or another as a person. This is about allowing all people to speak. And free speech is about letting people talk that you may not like. And so she has the right to talk about... Nixon did fire the FBI director, chat. Sorry, I'm not yelling at you. I'm just trying to keep my train of thought. It's funny. So it says in this Far Cry, Donald Trump will be in Far Cry 5. How did this get off topic? It's actually not off topic, but I always thought Pagan Min looked a lot like Donald Trump, which is kind of weird, and says more about how unnatural Donald Trump looks than anything. Okay, bye, Alan. Thanks for coming. And yeah, I mean, I don't know why everybody's going so crazy over Hillary Clinton pointing out the irony of here she is back 49 years later. This is what was going on when she was a student there. Look where we are now. Okay, guys, special prosecutor, FBI director, like, it is fair for her to point out the similarities. It is fair for her to say that these similarities exist, and that noise was the cats beating up a dog. Poor Loki. But I don't understand the tendency for people to freak out with this stuff. She was just pointing out the irony of history repeating itself. There is nothing so terrible. Okay, it's not as comparable. She didn't go on at length. She made 1 5-minute, she had one brief thing in a much larger speech that I don't know if you guys saw the original speech or you just saw the little clips on the news. But the guts of that speech are being completely neglected in favor of this media narrative where they want to just take the little jabs that people make and turn them into the whole deal. And the guts of the speech, and perhaps this is why the news doesn't want to cover this, but it was about, she mentioned talking to people you don't agree with, being open to other views, speaking even when it's unpopular, and not living in echo chambers, using your education to go out, get involved, and talk to people. And all this is getting lost in these anecdotal details that were just, I was sitting here going, good for her. She's telling people to do things instead of complain. Good for her. She's telling people to be open to other points of view. Good for her, for making a nod to the Wellesley College Conservative Caucus or the Wellesley College Young Republicans or something like that. She gave them a shout out. And people are not focusing on that. They're focusing on this little thing that was, wow, let's just stick a pin in it because how weird is this, And let's face it, she's a Democrat. Trump's a Republican this decade. There is a certain expectation, and I don't like this element of politicians speaking at commencement addresses. I think they should be apolitical, but I don't make the rules. There is a certain expectation that she be a good little party soldier and, go out there and take jabs at him, that is expected. If she didn't do it, people would be complaining that she didn't do it within her own party, which is a problem for her right now. But the other thing she said that I was like, this is what you need to say, is that she was saying women do have power to the women in that room. And don't forget, she was speaking and she was very clear to point out that she was speaking to a room full of elite, educated, privileged women. Her message was, you do have power. Today, right now, you are not oppressed. You can go out and do things. You have power. Own your power. Don't let anybody tell you you don't have power. And that message, because it's not the one the media wants to string women along with, they want the fucking Handmaid's Tale, that was overlooked in this stupid offhanded comment about Trump. And that's why I tend to watch these speeches live. That's why I put on CNN while it's while I'm on the treadmill or while I'm feeding the cats or doing anything like that. I've just got it on because these speeches come on. I want to see it live. And the other thing I watch is the immediate commentary after the speech. And they had a woman on there from the Washington Post, and the first word out of her mouth was it was an aggressive speech. And it was so interesting to see, she happened to be a black woman, but to see her fling that aggressive barb at another woman, knowing full well that women are, there's a double standard with women and aggression. There's an even greater double standard with black women and aggression. And so I'm watching this and going, this is the reason that people don't trust the media, is because despite them saying that the media is not an identifiable group, it is. There is this tendency that when people join the media, that becomes their tribe. They try to act like nothing else about them matters except political affiliation. And whenever people practice this sort of reductive identity politics, anybody who is a critical thinker is going to object to that. And that was one of the things Hillary Clinton talked about in her speech, was that the benefit of a post-secondary education where you are challenged by ideas you may not agree with is your ability to think critically. And someone in the chat asked, did she mean aggressive in a negative way? Or are you saying that due to the stigma of the word, she shouldn't have used as regardless? Both. It was used as a negative. It was an aggressive speech. She just attacked Donald Trump. And, like I said, that was part of her job, like it or not. I don't like it. I wish they'd stop doing it. Don't politicize commencement addresses. But also, yes, aggression is part of leadership. And I know I go on my little soapbox about you can't be a victim and a leader at the same time, but this is a huge problem facing women in not just leadership roles, but any competitive industry like video games, where you either have to produce or GTFO. You have to produce good shit or you're not going to keep your job. It is a results-driven industry because you can't make money unless your game is good. And that takes an element of aggression. That takes enough that I saw your comment, Krogan Char. I'll get to that in a minute. You have to go enough to get past your own insecurities and your own imposter syndrome and all that stuff to do anything. And Trump is aggressive all the time, but the words they use to describe him are tough. Obama was rightly criticized for not being aggressive enough. I think part of the reason that people kind of lost faith in the whole Democratic brand and felt like they were all out of touch, that even though they liked Obama, they thought he was no drama Obama. People want leadership who gets mad when they get mad. They want to see them tuned in to what is upsetting the electorate. And Obama didn't have that instinct to tap into those frustrations. And so that's actually a criticism. Leaders, especially leaders of nations, have to have an element of aggression. And so, guys get criticized in a different way for it, but then you get, Gian Fart, as I'm calling him, Gian Fart, who chokeslammed a reporter and got elected anyway. And when I saw the news break, I said to my husband that now we find out whether this, loses it for him or actually makes him gain a few points. Because, and it sounded like, based on the stuff of the, the exit polling that they did, that it actually, people were going there and cheering him on. And this is where I'll get to your comment, Krogan Char. And this is why I talk about things like sexism as systemic things, not things men do to women. Systems do it. Culture does it. Because yes, here was this female reporter from the Washington Post, and there were two other women on the panel, and only one attempted to vaguely go like, look, that's kind of her job. But yes, the female reporters were using sexist techniques, sexist smears against another woman. And that happens all the time. It's mean girl syndrome. And I'm sitting here going, like, holy crap. What's wrong with being aggressive? What's wrong with going out there? I mean, you know, you remember when Trump addressed that naval graduate and I was treated so unfairly and all that stuff. They didn't say he was too aggressive. They said he was a crybaby. He was too whiny instead of too aggressive. It was the opposite complaint. And on the one hand, yeah, the media is never happy. And I think that this belief that it is their, yeah, Rasha, you're right. I meant to say that and I didn't, because the way Montana's system is, 70% of the votes were in before news of the whole GN40 thing got out. But he only won by 6 points. So it was close. It was closer than it should have been based on Trump's margin of victory in the election. But I forgot where I was going. But what happens is when you get into the media, there's this tendency to try to write and try to speak and try to think like everybody else to show you're professional, instead of coming up with your own perspective on things and getting mocked for years and then finally coming into your own, the way Howard Stern did. Like, there's a reason Howard Stern has been so successful. He did something different. But a lot of people go in and they try to just copy. And so it doesn't matter what they look like. They all sound the same. It's back in the old days, somebody used to call it a banana effect. It doesn't matter what color your peel is. You're all white on the inside. And the one standout, the one person I've really come to respect on CNN is April Ryan, because I watch her stick handle the loaded questions that she's asked. That what is your opinion on this? And I watch her go, what I've been hearing from my sources is, or what I've been hearing from people is, she skips her opinion and actually does the job of a reporter, which is to report. And she's really one of the, oh, that's an interesting one too, Vienticus. I'll finish this thought and get to that. And I really respect her for that, because that, let's face it, the only reason she's on CNN is because there was that moment where Trump went after her. And, you know, they saw that as the most egregious thing being done to a reporter before Jan Fort chokeslammed the guy and then lied about it. And to me, okay, someone shouldn't be losing their shit. But how the hell, this guy got up in his election speech and basically confessed to a crime. How the hell does he hold office if he's convicted of assault? That's the other thing I don't understand. But then I want to get somebody in chat. Viennicus brought up the Anderson Cooper dump on the desk comment. I happen to be watching that live too. I thought that was a very funny moment. But then, this is something I don't like about Anderson Cooper. I think that, I saw your comment, JRH, I will get to that. Cooper has these moments where he's human. Don Lemon has these moments where he's human. Wolf Blitzer has these moments where he's newsady. And those are the moments that define them. Those are the moments that make you want to watch them as a news person, when they give you a little glimpse of who they are. And that allows you to trust them because you know where they're coming from, you know where their biases lie, so you can sort of go, all right, he feels that way about this, so I'm going to kind of discount this a little. But this, he seems to be pretty consistent on this. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. It's important to be as authentic as you possibly can so that people can know where you're coming from, know who you are, and you build that trust with the audience. That is so important. And those moments where Anderson Cooper has that little bit of a, like snap, right, that's him. That's Jake Tapper's whole show. Jake Tapper's whole show is just talking like this, and I hate everything, and everybody's stupid, and I'm a hard-hitting news guy because I ask jerk questions that make people shut down instead of opening up. Give me a Peabody Award. That's Jake Tapper to me. Jake Tapper does everything wrong when it comes to actually making someone comfortable and causing them to share more than they intend, and he's rewarded for it because all people want is the fireworks, right? Anderson Cooper is very good at making people comfortable. That is his skill. And so when he has those moments where he rolls his eyes or he just says, to Jeffrey Lord, he could take a dump on the desk and you'd defend it. Then he's forced to apologize. And I don't know if that's his producer or that's him feeling bad, but he needs to stop doing that. It was a totally valid comment. I think a lot of people thinking about Jeffrey Lord. And I personally think Jeffrey Lord should not be on the air at all because he lies. He lies and he misleads. And I don't care what political stripe you are. If there was a left-wing person who was constantly lying, and I'm sure there are some, I can't think of any right now, but I'm sure there are a few people who go up there and fudge. I would dislike them too. They probably don't come to mind because they're not someone that I can. But I will say, K Black Dragon says that he dislikes Jake Tapper's style. I'm not talking about Jake Tapper's style. I'm taking issue with his structure, with the structure of how he conducts his interviews. His interviews are all about the questions and not about the answers. Because when you're trained how to interview someone, you put them at ease. You basically keep feeding them the rope because the more comfortable they get, the more they're likely to hang themselves. You're gonna get that moment where they say something they weren't planning on saying. And when Tapper goes at people with these hard-hitting questions, it causes them to be more on their guard and revert to these talking points. You don't really get anything useful out of them. It's wrong. And that's how far into ego the news media has gone. The fact that this guy is held up as this golden-haired boy when he's actually making mistakes in terms of news gathering. And it pisses me off. It pisses me off as somebody who, does stuff that's factually accurate. I do interviews that are entertaining. We tackle some tough stuff. But, I respect Dave Rubin. He takes a lot of crap, but I respect Dave Rubin because he does not attack his guests. And there's a guy that gets very interesting, unique things out of his guests because he just allows them to talk. He doesn't hit them with gotchas or anything like that. He allows them to present their positions. And, there's people who I watch, and I admit I watch some of them because I want to see what they have to say. I want to see what they have to say when they're just there talking. And a lot of them, I think they're totally nuts. They're angry little people. But I was allowed to make that choice for myself. I didn't have some news anchor telling me I'm supposed to believe they're bad. And that is what he does well. But look at how blacklisted he has been on the left, When in fact, I think he's giving the left a lot of ammunition with some of these people. Because he lets them say stupid things. And it's not his job to argue them. He lets them say stupid things. It doesn't mean he agrees or doesn't agree. That's not his job. His job is to ask questions and give people the best chance to answer as best they can. That is the job of a reporter. A lot of these news people aren't reporters. They're pundits who do interviews. And those are always just they're theater. They're theater. And I'm sick of the theater, because my other complaint about the all kinds of press, games press and the mainstream press, is they give you their opinion in the headline before you know what the story is. So you know from the headline whether the story thinks it's bad or good. You don't have to read the story. And the fact that there are opinion columns on the front page of the newspaper now really bothers me, because the front page is supposed to be the news of the day. But now in our internet-driven clickbait cycle, hi Terex, fireworks get people watching. Sensational inflammatory opinion gets people hate clicking. And this is terrible for advertisers, because, you know, your brand's being associated with hate clicks. And, you know, so people go to this thing prepared to be all angry because they saw it on Reddit. Oh, because they've gone at it through an echo chamber. And then your ads displayed on something that people are only watching because they can't stand everything that it's about. And when I was looking through the Far Cry 5 stuff, I actually, when I got all the headlines, I deliberately clicked on the most neutral headline, because I did not want to see people giving me their opinion on what the game is about. We don't know yet, other than it's about this religious cult in Montana in some alternative, either alternative near future or alternative present, and the resistance up against them. And I really think that it is a very timely game, because a lot of people don't, they say I don't recognize my own country. I also like the fact that Ubisoft might be, I don't know if they're founding it or continuing, because comic books like The Walking Dead and Preacher and all this stuff has done this. It's a sort of American exoticism, that treating rural America like these strange little zoo animals, the way Western literature tends to do, foreign cultures. And, Far Cry has done the narco state. I guess they've done 2 narco states. I mean, one was a flat up narco state, Far Cry 3. And it's so funny, because whenever I watch Better Call Saul and Michael Mando's on it, I keep, Vas starts going in my head. But they've done that to, and it's Ubisoft Montreal. It's not Canada, Right now, let me tell you, Canada feels like a very far away place from America right now. Our news is freaking boring. Okay? Our news right now is people arguing over how many rights, new protections transgendered people should get. It's so, nobody is arguing that we shouldn't care about that. We don't have the same issues. It feels like a very different place, because our governments are structured very differently. And someone in the chat brought a question that was, and it's funny, because I have friends in rural America, and there's a lot of beautiful things about rural America, and I'm hoping that the game will have that, because one of the things that the Far Cry games do is they combine, the worst parts of, the South American narco states due to the World Bank controls on their economies. The only way they could make their World Bank payments is by growing drugs. They deal with that, but they also deal with the natural beauty of the environments. And I think that American Gothic, the beauty of rural America, that sort of feeling like time has stopped. It looks like, based on the things I've seen, that's going to be on full display as well. The soft lighting, the very warm tones, that old sign hanging with the white porch with the paint slightly peeling. There's a real beauty to that. And I like that it seems to be showing both. The rednecks are the good guys, the rednecks are the bad guys. Ubisoft does these things well. If there's any developer right now I trust to do this stuff, it's Ubisoft, because they did do a good job. I thought the characterizations in Far Cry 4 were not quite as good as 3, but they were still nuanced. Like, I like it. I just trust them to find the balance. They did a really good job in Watch Dogs 2 of dealing with social issues, but not in a way that you felt absolutely beaten over the head about it. Like, yes, you have a black trans woman character, but she doesn't do that stand there and be trans thing. Hello, let me tell you the story of how I became me. She doesn't do that. She's a city councilor who gives the guy information. She's there. And there's a plot point related to her transition and all that stuff. It's, they did it right. And they almost do it so right that people don't see it. And then they criticize them for not being stereotypical enough. And a lot of them are based on real people. A lot of those characters. And so I really trust them to tackle such a sensitive, loaded kind of place right now and do it justice, because the Far Cry franchise, if they shit the bed on Far Cry, I will be so sad, because it has been so, and yeah, Dylan, that's exactly what I'm saying. Dylan said, wait, are you saying it's not her entire identity, Leanna? Are you saying that she's more than genitals, a person? Yeah, just so you guys know, just full disclosure, Dylan is one of the writers on Live from Canada, the Ed the Sock show I do. He's a very, very funny, very talented guy. He did that weird video with Sean Weedhat flying into space. Dylan's awesome. I am a big Dylan fan. Yeah, I know that, I understand people are burned. Like, you guys know that. You guys know that my enthusiasm doesn't necessarily have to transfer. I just, I have a little more contact with these studios than you guys do, for obvious reasons. And, there were rumblings about BioWare for a few years now. People were actually saying that it's not what it is. And I'm like, well, we'll see how long that takes to work through the bloodstream. But yeah, we kind of go, yeah, there are writers on that show for like the bits, like the fake tweets and everything like that. There's usually one segment a week that's written on the Live from Canada. Yeah, I'm, like we were going back talking about the mechanics. I think that Ubisoft, at least with certain franchises, I hear Ghost Recon was disappointing, but I didn't play it, so I didn't have that bad experience. The two Ubisoft franchises I play religiously, well, 3 actually, Splinter Cell, Far Cry, and Assassin's Creed. And as iffy as Unity was, there was still stuff to like about it. And I like to reward Ubisoft taking creative risks and actually trying to legitimately innovate, now I am prepared for them to miss the mark because they're trying. You know, can we really say that Fallout 4 did anything terribly innovative in terms of gameplay mechanics over Fallout 3? I really can't say that. My favorite Bethesda Fallout game so far has been New Vegas, because it had that kind of weird, the world's gone to hell, let's party humor that that the original Interplay games had. But yeah, I just, no studio is 100% consistent, especially the big ones. But, and I get if you're just skeptical of game launches, period. And as somebody says, they're really looking forward to the new Assassin's Creed. I hope it changes up the gameplay a bit. I like Anno 2. I'm just new to the party on that one. But I find that every Assassin's Creed game changes up the gameplay some. I mean, obviously, Unity was a big leap in terms of gameplay, and it wasn't quite there. They fixed it in Syndicate. I mean, it was so fiddly to get into those windows. It wasn't intuitive. But it takes guts to change your entire navigation style on an ongoing series, because you know that it is eventually going to be an improvement. And hey, Patches, the amazing Patches has arrived. No, New Vegas isn't. I should have said Bethesda era Fallout. You're right, Renee. You know, There are certain studios that I'm just like, or developers or publishers or whatever you call it, that I'm willing to give a chance to. And Ubisoft is one of those ones. They're the publisher, the developer. Stop, you're both right? They have a unique thing that way. You know, the same way I'll always give an Insomniac game a chance, just because I get a base level of enjoyment out of everything they do. It's little things like that you really do have to trust a studio to be good at what they're good at. And the best studios know what their strengths are and play to them. They don't try to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, that's true. The EA Sports games are good at what they are. And I agree, Orkar. I think out of all the games, Fallout 2 is the best RPG. The actual RPG genre is eroding in AAA. And this is really frustrating to me. There's some nice games that are coming out, like Pillars of Eternity, like Tyranny, like Planescape, Tides of Numenera. Although I did feel that Numenera was a bit truncated because of budget. Those games are big, and they take a lot of writing and a lot of coding and a lot of plot mapping. They're complicated. And these action RPGs that are flooding, like, they're RPGs, and you know, I'm not talking about ones like with meaningful player choice like The Witcher 3. I'm talking about ones like Horizon Zero Dawn, which great open world action game, but I always warn people, don't expect a great RPG. It's not. You get a few dialogue selections. You don't really impact the world very much at all. If your stream's not working, guys, refresh. Yeah, it's, you know, to me, I like isometric RPGs too. To me, the downfall of RPGs, BioWare RPGs, was that fucking dialogue wheel. I hate that fucking dialogue wheel. And, you know, BioWare said over and over and over again that, oh, we did our analytics and people like the dialogue wheel, you're in the minority. Fuck off. Like, people like the dialogue wheel because it makes their choices easy. And that's precisely why I don't like the dialogue wheel. You don't role play with a dialogue wheel. You pick the outcome you want. Blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. You're playing fucking Simon the entire game. You're not thinking like your character's like, I want to be Paragon, so I'm going to pick Paragon, and I want to be Renegade, so I'm going to be Renegade. It's frustrating because it's not a role-playing experience. It's precisely what moral choice-driven developers say is not a moral choice. It's not a story choice. It's not a role-play choice. It is a choice you select to get an outcome. And that isn't an RPG. An RPG is supposed to be you're in a role, you pick your class, you play according to that class. And I thought, like, Dragon Age Origins was this glorious high watermark in that regard, because what that game did that I loved was it wasn't about morality. It was about how the various characters in your party felt about what you did. So, you know, you did something, Alistair and Liliana might like it, Morgan doesn't. You know, and so you have to figure out who, you know, you have to kind of keep everybody happy. You actually felt like a leader because no matter what you did, somebody was going to not like it and somebody was going to like it. And to me, that was actually practical, like social interaction, as opposed to the game telling you something was good or something was bad. Because the thing about fantasy games is that different things are good or bad to different factions within the game. So what is considered good and virtuous to an elf is not necessarily good and virtuous to a Qunari. They have very different moral systems and very different senses of self and all that stuff. So you sort of break the immersion, you break that awesome world building when the game starts telling you something is good or something isn't. And so that's what I really loved about Origin. The minute you put that dialogue wheel in, you're telegraphing, you know, what the desired, the more peaceable things tend to be on the left, the more hotshot Wolverine type things, Hulk out things tend to be on the right. And the other thing I don't like is, remember in Origins, you hit the button and the person just responded. I don't like fully voiced protagonists because if they said exactly or close to exactly the line I picked, that would be one thing. I do not like those approximations that, you know, you're like, because you're trying to negotiate something and it's like, well, what do you say? Okay, let's go. And then they say something that doesn't sound at all like, okay, let's go. It's like, fine, well, if you want to be that way, that's not what I said. Stop approximating what the dialogue is supposed to be. Let me actually select the dialogue. I feel so completely out of control with those approximated prompts. And that's frustrating, obviously. And that's why I've sort of moved into open world gaming, where the game, like the gameplay, is your role play. Because, I mean, in the Far Cry games, you can choose how to tackle those forts. You can choose kind of who to align with. And, you know, the beauty of... I loved in Far Cry 4 that you could get so lost in the world that you could completely forget what the original objective you were given was. I did. I just hit the point where I hated everybody. And I know the whole place could go rot. And like that, I thought that was actually a more meaningful choice with the multiple endings, this, you know, the subtle multiple endings and all that stuff, than if you are guaranteed to complete the excuse for gameplay. But along the way, you sort of had these little narratives you told yourself. I mean, to me, in Primal, it was even more, because the gameplay was a lot simpler, the story was a lot simpler, but I ended up naming all my animals. My badger was named Timothy, and he was an asshole, and so it was sort of it was a role-playing experience that wasn't a role-playing experience, because you get out of those games what you put in. And that's choice. Like, the player choice in the Far Cry games is so open-ended, you stop seeing the choices. And I thought that was sublime. And I didn't think the characters, and I didn't think the writing was as good. I didn't even think the performances were as good in Far Cry 4 as Far Cry 3. But I thought the way the game was actually put together was absolutely fabulous. Like, the world, the environment was the main character for me. And I thought that was amazing. I kind of feel that way about the Long Dark early access stuff too. That game's way late, but I'm prepared to wait, because the environment, the world, and I haven't played that in ages. I really want to jump on it. I've been too busy, but I had a shit ton of fun just sandboxing the crap out of those environments. And it's just straight up survival, and you make up your own stories. And I love it. It's almost that feeling that the old D&D games gave you, that it gave you a world, it gave you rules, and you made up your story within those rules. What would be a good Far Cry to start with? I haven't played any of them. It really doesn't matter, K Black Dragon. For the basic idea, you might want to start with 3 and just Vass is Vass. I mean, Vass is such a great character. He's one of the best secondary villains in all of gaming, as far as I'm concerned. I agree with you about Morrowind too, Chad Kroger. The world was the story. It took me a while to figure that out, because that was the first Elder Scrolls game I played. And so it took me forever. What is this? And I played it on console, which was not the greatest experience. But Far Cry 3 is a lot of fun. Blood Dragon is just so out there. And the nice thing about starting there is you kind of get the formula. So then when you play 4 and you play Primal, you understand how they're varying the formula. And it gives you a kind of, not a better understanding of the game, but it gives you a very different understanding of the game in terms of the formula of Far Cry. And, the thing that took me a bit to get into, but eventually I embraced it, which is the mark of a good game, was that drug culture is a big part of Far Cry. And, I just have that stupid immediate reaction to the whole drug thing. It's one of those things, like, if you're allergic to peanuts, even seeing a picture of peanuts is like, ugh! So I had this instant, because weed the day after, and I'm not even smoking it myself, it's just around, and I'm blotchy and puffy, and my eyes are they're killing me today. And that's interesting. But yeah, it took me a while to sink into the drug culture of those games, and then I was like, how are they going to do it in Primal? Like, how are they going to do that narco state drug? They did it, and they did it in a pretty clever way. It's interesting, Kroganchar and Rasha, that you guys consider Terran Loghain from Dragon Age a villain. I don't. And that's what I love about, he's an antagonist, but I can't claim he's a villain, because Loghain is a patriot. And I think, if I can make a recommendation, Let me try to find that the tie-in novel that deals with Logain and Merrick and blanking on Merrick's wife's name. But it really fleshes out Logain's motivations, and they're, oh my god, the book just kicks me in the feels, and I'm trying to find the title of it. Give me a moment. Ooh, there's 2 more I haven't read. Yay! Oh, but they're not written by David Gator. Oh, I'll give him a try. Is it The Stolen Throne? Yes. Okay. Yes. It is the... let me get the Stolen Throne. Stupid password. Come on. Sorry about the delay, guys. Here we are. Oh, there's the set. But I'll link you to The Stolen Throne so you can try it, because this is my favorite of the books. Asunder might be my next favorite, but it really does. Stolen Throne novel. It really does paint Logain in a different light, and he's not actually. Oh, I won't spoil it for you, but he isn't an evil character the way Corypheus, was that his name? I just keep thinking of say Corypheus shits. But he's not the way, like, he doesn't have his sights set on power for the sake of power or conquest. He's actually trying to save Ferelden, and it comes sort of down to the bitterness he picked up in during the war. But it's a great book. And then if you want to read Asunder, the Architect is in The Calling, and then Asunder has the end of Wynn's story and the beginning of Cole's. It's kind of interesting. So those Gator books, I haven't read the next 2. I hope they're still good. Patrick Weeks is a pretty good writer. Yeah, I really recommend the Dragon Age novels. They're better than the Mass Effect novels. The best Mass Effect novel is almost impossible to get. But someone in chat said, I hope BioWare goes back to being BioWare. I don't know that, because old BioWare, OB, original BioWare, has spread out to Beamdog, and a few other companies. And so they're going to go and they're going to make their games. I mean, Gator jumped over to Beamdog. And then we, might get Baldur's Gate 3 finally, which would really be interesting. But some things are what they are and you can't go back. And that's why it's really nice that, CD Projekt got really good at making action RPGs right in the nick of time. I'm actually kind of excited and trepidatious for Cyberpunk, because I liked the Witcher 3 creative direction better than 2, and I think the creative director on 2 is actually working on Cyberpunk, so I might not like it as much, but I really think that CD Projekt is getting better and better and better at RPGs, action RPGs. I mean, some of the choices you had to make in 3 were gut-wrenching. There was no wrong answer. There was no right answer. Like the Bloody Baron storyline, which everybody freaked out about, but I loved that storyline. I really did. It felt real, and it was messy and ugly. And then that whole story, well, that was tied into the crones. I loved the character design on those crones. Oh, wow. So awesome. But there were some interesting choices. My only thing about The Witcher 3 is I felt like some of the characters from the books did get backgrounded. Dandelion's storyline was very cute, but I felt that some of the other companion characters in the books, like Zoltan and things like that, Zoltan, right? The little dwarf guy. I felt like he kind of got sidelined. Oh, that's interesting. Martin, BioWare should make a Dresden Files game. That would be interesting. It's funny, Dylan, because Dylan says my idea for an RPG would be more along line with Dark Souls, drop you in and say, go play. That was the idea of Myst. Boom! Do something. Yeah, I mean, people are now saying I didn't like the Witcher characters as much as the BioWare characters. They're totally different writing traditions. The Witcher and BioWare. And this is where I have to be really careful because people freak out and misunderstand what I'm saying. But there are different literary traditions that tell stories in different ways. And BioWare is straight up epic romance. It is big emotional experiences. The Witcher is more complex. They, Dragon Age uses that medievalist art style, which goes in tune with the medievalist romances and all that stuff, Camelot and, all that stuff. The Witcher uses that same kind of medievalist romantic look, but it grafts onto it, and it's a very Polish approach. There's this, I don't want to call it outright rationalism, but there's very much a skeptic or cynic take on the writing. And it's because there's that whole allegory for German occupation and Russian occupation. And I mean, I think the Scoia'tael are analogous to, the Jews in Poland in World War II. Because let's face it, by the end, the Scoia'tael are pretty much run out and demonized and, murdered and maimed and killed. And, Yorvith has a big old scar. In the books, it's more about that. But there's a lot of historical allegory in The Witcher that comes from a very different place. And it makes it harder to, like, once you kind of settle into the world and go, all right, this is a Witcher game, I know what I'm doing. Awesome. Then you know what to expect. But, and I had this experience, you expect one thing from the very romantic visuals, and by romantic visuals, I mean everyone is beautiful, even the ugly people. Hi, Time to Japan. You expect one thing. You expect the big epic thing with the big epic ending and the big epic win. Yay, we saved the world. You don't get that in Witcher games. I thought the ending of 3 was a lot more satisfying. Wow, mentioning Myst really kicked off a whole conversation in the chat. The tie-in books for Myst are phenomenal as well. I don't know if you can still get them, but yeah, I'm a nerd. I read tie-in books from video game series. But that's sort of the complication of The Witcher, and I think that Console Hot mentioned that The Witcher is solid because it's based on a series of books. I think that's true. I think that had the games hewed closer to the books, they would have been even stronger. I think that there were a lot of elements in the books that were really underexplored that I liked. They went a little commercial on the games for me in some regards. I really recommend The Witcher, the short stories. I like the short stories more than the novel. The short stories are, they're cool because they're like these bitter, cynical fairy tales. And it's just, and then this happened. It's, they're really well written. Apparently the fan translations are better than the official translations. I read the fan translations. I thought they were really good. And so there's these deep descriptions of character scars, male and female. And I felt like the depth of female characterization really got lost until 3. And I felt in 3 with Yennefer and with the little things they did to Triss, they really, and then putting Ciri in allows you to see Yennefer and Yennefer was a device, and I really got angry because I felt like they didn't pay enough respect to Yennefer, especially in the second game where they're all just like, oh, she's a bitch and she won't shut up and all this. I'm like, man, if she's not on screen, why are you shitting on a character that has a sort of a pre-existing thing? And yeah, Yennefer is a polarizing character, but I wanted them to show, not tell. And they finally did that in 3, and it was fantastic, you know? And so it's, yeah, and I mean, CD Projekt, there's lengthy articles where CD Projekt themselves says they were learning to make games. They didn't know what they were doing on 1. Their studio almost folded because they made another game, something of the White Wolf or something like that didn't go the way they wanted, and so they needed money, and so 2 kind of had this unfinished, and yeah, it very much did. 2 very much felt unfinished, and there was a brutal memory leak in it that they never fixed. And oh yeah, Philippa Eilhart, I think was her last name, in 3 was astounding. She was sort of a mwahaha Wicked Queen stock villain in 2. In 3, her revenge plot storyline was so freaking good. I mean, scary and visceral, but really good. And yeah, Three was just a really good game. I mean, again, there were certain things that they can even do better on, but it was a good game. Witcher 3 was a really good game. I mean, CD Projekt now feels like a mature game company, as opposed to people, hey, let's make something and see how it turns out, which I enjoy. And I think they're even going to get better because, I mean, isn't it great that there's at least one game company right now that actually is showing market improvement with every game they make, as opposed to, you know, being sort of even or, you know, on the, in some, they're sort of in decline, and that happens. But, I mean, the whole, what do they call it? The Sorcerer's Guild kind of thing. The thing about The Witcher 3, I didn't intend to talk about this today, but this is what these streams are about. Finding out who I am and where I kind of come at women in gaming. That's, oh man, we're we're at 500 backers now, and we're $500 away from that first stretch goal. This is killing me. But the thing about The Witcher is The Witcher 3, is there's so many female characters that they're allowed to be individuals. And unlike games where there's just one woman and she has to be all women for all pipples, there's so many female characters that they're allowed to have different views, and they're allowed to come at things differently, and they're allowed to disagree with each other and do things differently and come at problems differently. And it's awesome. You know, there are so many women in that game, and they are all very different. Right, Lodge of Sorceresses. Thank you, Auron. And that's the starting point, right? In order to make great characters, any gender, they have to be allowed to be characters. And if your character is just the female playable character, she's not going to be very much of a character. And sometimes that's appropriate. Sometimes you just want the playable character to basically be the suit you wear. But that's awesome. Did you really tell your therapist about the Lady Bits Kickstarter? That's awesome. And yeah, wouldn't that be awesome if we could get 666 backers in the end? Peanut butter cheddar crackers. Oh, that sounds really good right now, Drew. Yeah, I would love 666 backers. I'll tell you guys, I did not expect the Beelzebub thing to catch the way it did. That was a cheeky thing. I did because I really believe in don't get mad, get funny. And I've always liked, oh, that's an interesting idea. Thinking. I won't say what's in the chat, but it is a good idea. What, like a vinyl thing? Sunbro says, maybe the game journalist will cover your KS since you're funded now. Oh, no. Oh, no. They've kicked that down too. We'll cover the first episode. I don't buy it. I think they might begrudgingly to dig at it, but I am not expecting ally status, you know? Somebody in chat asked, what's the difference between early bird number 1 and full access? That's awesome that you really told your therapist. That's fantastic. I'm not saying the name because therapy, but that's amazing. I love that. That is the best thing I've heard all day. But backer question. Okay. The difference between early bird package 1 and the full access is that early bird package 1 gives you the access to the backers only episode. And I think it's weird that 10 people have taken the other $25 pledge. Such is that. So you get the special exclusive episode. So that's the difference. So take the early bird. If you see an early bird that's the same price as something else, the early bird has more. And I did that deliberately to avoid that there's still a Kickstarter Uncanny Valley. It's like, and then nothing happens until the last 48 hours. And it's still driving me crazy. But the Beelzebub video, pardon the pun, gave it a boost, which is good. That's what kind of got us closer to the stretch goals. Yeah, it's been interesting. Running a Kickstarter I was warned that it's tiring. I was not prepared for how what's the word I'm trying to think of? The busy work that is required, because you have to be responsive to what people say. Like I added backer tiers because the $50 one, the original $50 one sold out, like it was like gone in a week. And I found not just the number of pledges went down after that, but the dollar value of the pledges were going down. And so Patches, I've heard there's been a few people ask me to do a Nico girl. I am working on that. And Viennicus, I've got an artist doing like Disney princess style versions of the various characters, and then I've got another artist potentially doing chibi versions. And so it's I want both, because I want to do little chibi animations because I just think chibis are cute, and I kind of want to make the point. It's kind of inspired by this, because people tend to reduce Ivy Valentine to her boobs, but you still know this is her, and no boobs. So I really want to show that there's more to some of these characters than just boobage. But I'm trying to do variations on the theme. So like I'm not just Red Sonja. I want to be kind of my own character with kind of a distinct look. So once I kind of get those down, I'll send them off to the artists, and they'll do all that stuff. And there might be a sticker set. There might be a coloring book. All that. That's why there's that $125 all the things tier for people who just want the stuff. There'll be a kind of secret item that will be added to the fulfillment at that tier. And then of course we added the Frank Cho sketch at 50. He still hasn't decided what it's going to be. We gave him too many choices. But that thing's cool, eh? Somebody likes my my Pac-Man. I mean, Pac-Man was my first arcade game, Bucka Bucka. So it's all the love for Pac-Man. But yeah, so I mean, every time I added an incentive, I had to update all the graphics and make a graphic for it and add it to the Kickstarter. And then we have to do videos. And, I had to completely redo the incentive tier chart, because I actually saw that on another Kickstarter and I really liked the interpretation, the physical interpretation of what you get, even though it's really small. It's sort of like, all right, I see the different things side by side. I kind of get what it is. But every time I changed the incentives, I had to change that. And so it was a lot of work. And then doing the other stuff on top of it. And there's a lot of podcasts and interviews and things like that I've done that haven't been published yet. And I'm afraid that a lot of them are going to come out after the Kickstarter's closed, which kind of sucks because people may find out about it after the fact. So I'm not sure what to do about that, because I've been really making it clear to the press that once this Kickstarter is done, no, there is not any more of the access incentives available, because we have to get to work right away. Like, the surveys are going to go out, people are going to respond, and every Wednesday is going to be some sort of thing like this where we have a backer discussion about the Kickstarter. And we have to do that right away, because I got to get working on that Lara Croft episode like pronto, and I got to go back and replay the first few games as well, which thankfully a backer found on Steam for me. It's super cheap, so I don't have to get footage from people. But that's a process. It's gonna be fun. I mean, shit, I'm not gonna complain about playing a bunch of video games, but I gotta play Nier. because I think that's probably going to make it in based on what I've seen. And there's a few other games I want to consider, and then obviously people are going to suggest some as well. So I want to leave that open. I want to get the feedback in as quickly as I can so I can accommodate as many viewpoints as possible. And then I have to kind of, oh, that's funny, the motherboard. This is there by accident. I'm actually having trouble. I just put this in. I upgraded, kind of unintentionally. I rebuilt that we use Wirecast for the live stream show on Thursdays, and it wasn't working. It was a donated Dell, and the power supply was too small, and so more than a webcam would conk out. So went and bought a motherboard, that one, because the processor on the Wirecast computer was a 6700 Intel i7. And so I needed an 1151 board. The one in this PC used to be an 1150 board. But it turned out, for various reasons, this board was not compatible with one of the things we needed to use because of the Blackmagic card. There's all this stuff. My Asus Z87, or for the US, Z87, yeah, it was a 240 watt power supply, the old Dell. We were told it was a 480, which even then, but my buddy Sean and I cracked it in the basement of the Hard Rock one day, and I peered down. That was before he had eye surgery, so he couldn't even see it. And I was like, I looked like 5 times to make sure I was reading that properly. And of course, their proprietary power supplies, instead of being the brick that's kind of like that, it's long and thin. And the Dell motherboards are proprietary as well. And so we ended up yanking the motherboard out of this and putting it into the Wirecast machine. So now I have, it does hyper-threading better. The 6700 does better than the, what did I have before? An Intel i7 4790, 4970, I forget, K. And I got it thinking I was going to overclock. I don't need to overclock, so it didn't make sense. So this is the board I got. The thing is, I'm now having problems with the sleep mode on this board, and it is driving me crazy. Instead of going to sleep, the computer powers down completely. And it's driving me nuts because everybody says, check Windows power settings. Don't you think that's the first thing I did? No, it's not that. It's something with this board. But somebody said it might be that Windows 10 doesn't like new boards. So I may have to wipe this computer and completely reinstall Windows to stop the board from shutting completely down. And I'm not ready to do that yet. That's a very lengthy backup. If I have to do that, I actually might buy a brand new boot drive and just keep my current C drive as an additional drive, like just bump it down a slot, because I don't want to go through all that backup. Other than the normal things I do, all the reinstalling and shit like that. But Viennicus, you know what? The 970 cards are still pretty good. I finally upgraded to a 1050 Ti because, again, it was in my husband doesn't know anything about computers. He got this Kijiji box that has a 1050 Ti video card. I'm like, oh, take that. So he got my 970 because he doesn't need it. It's, yeah, Drew, I tried to get the latest BIOS. I put in the CD. It says, you do not have the thing. And then I go to the MSI website to see if I can download it instead of putting it on the CD. I just did this today. Holy shit, it is a complicated process. And, oh yeah, Renee, that's okay that just turning off the sleep mode doesn't burn the machine out? Because I thought about doing that. Isn't this awesome? Like, it's just like nerdy. It's like a whole bunch of people. I'm like crowdsourcing computer advice. Because I thought about that workaround just for this period of time. Because Windows 10, even on my old machine, it sometimes didn't like to wake up. So, I mean, that's a real easy fix. Just turn sleep mode to never in the power settings. And it's funny because I bought an MSI board because Rich from Vutech sent me these headphones. I was like, MSI, really? It seems a bit brandy. Oh, sweet. Okay. So the monitor's powering down, puts it in low power setting, even though the computer doesn't officially sleep. It doesn't hibernate or anything. It just goes. But yeah, I really like these headphones. I thought they were great quality for the price. And, interesting. Julian. Yeah. Interesting, Renee. Okay, that might be an easy workaround to stop it from going into sleep at all. Because flashing the BIOS and all that stuff, it's like, oh man, if I do that wrong, because I've done that wrong. I would be the greatest QA tester in the history of QA because I break everything. I broke Battlefield 3. I broke the original Uncharted. I broke Uncharted 3 in demo. I will break games. People now see me. What did I get all over my freaking hands? There's like, is it coolant? I got cooling cum on my hands now. Ew, why is it on the box? Blech. Oh well. Anyway, that's why it's back there. Because I've been fighting with it. And you can't take it back. Let me see. That's a good point, Vient, because turning it on and off, on and off, on and off is actually worse for it. Oh man, Patches, that's a great idea. Now the question is, okay, Patches says, I'm serious about this, okay, so don't think I'm joking. I think this is a great idea. So someone should start a tech advice channel with sexy girls in negligees giving hardware advice. I'll pay for that. Now, okay. Sexy girls. Because what I've heard, I'm thinking about how to word this. What I've heard is that Krogan Chart doing a Thursday night joke. Nut butter. What I've been told and what I found is that it's more important for anybody to know their shit than to be perfect looking. So what I thought is we get women who actually know computers and glam them up. So like do the big hair and the big eyes and everything like that. That's a great idea, Jolly, for a name. But get people who actually know what they're talking about. Or we bring in guests and everything like that. And, but they actually, I really believe that competence is one of the sexiest, qualities that either a man or a woman can have. Oh, chicks and chips. That's good too. Look, Dylan. Wow. Sexy girls and guys. That's an interesting idea too. But yeah, that's I like, cause right now, again, I didn't expect to do this. How long have we go now? Oh, wow. Okay, 2 hours, I'm calling it. But this is my last kind of pontificating on the universe. Thank you for that advice, guys. I'm going to do that. I'm just going to not, I'm just going to turn off sleep. Solve the issue. So, I really believe that, the branding of nerd stuff has been off base. Nerds like fun. Nerds like pretty. I'm a nerd, okay? It drives me crazy when I see this douchebag on TV with the freaking Madman lightning bolt shirt and the 50s style glasses and the overly gooed hair and all that stuff, and the shirt that's too tight and all that stuff. I don't like it. Sorry guys, I had to get rid of some idiot who was being stupid. But I don't like the nerd chic. I have quit sleep mode in real life. Look at my eyes. Oh, I got 8 hours of sleep before the last web stream. It was the freaking greatest. I felt like I was high. It was like, sleep is amazing. My memory was like, boom. It was great. But, yeah, so I was saying, you see this nerdy guy, and he's wearing a shirt that's too tight and skinny jeans, and he's not, he shouldn't be wearing a shirt that tight because he's got a bit of a paunch, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just dress for your frame. And, it drives me crazy because it's guy. And it's like they come out of a mold, right? And that perpetuates the stereotype. And yeah, there's a big crossover with hipster. But these are people who look the part that people hiring think nerds look like. And so we have this stereotype, and that feeds into the whole cis straight white guy misogyn nerd thing. And they keep doing this. It's like they come out of a factory, and they aren't especially competent. Like, I know more about a lot of the things that they talk. They go on Google, or they go on a wiki before they go on the show, because you can tell they're talking about it from a research perspective, not actually living, breathing it. And don't forget, our show used to be on G4, so I kind of... the thing that was crazy, too, is, Morgan Webb knows her stuff. And the thing about those shows is those were scripted. So they were giving her less to say of substance. It's not that she didn't know it. Far Cry's on sale? Oh, that makes sense. And I remember a whole thing where there were a couple guys I was standing by, and Morgan was on the air, and they were just, and they were going on about Morgan's legs, and she has that effect on guys, and I think that's awesome. I think they should have played that up. And they were like, no, she needs to not do that. It's too distracting. Too distracting? Why do you care what people are looking at as long as they watch? And I really felt, I won't say feel bad, because they got paid and all that stuff, but I felt like the ladies on that show did not get a fair shake because, interesting. Humble Bundle's having a Far Cry sale, guys. But I didn't feel like the women on G4 got a fair shake. And yes, I have heard about the Witcher Netflix show. I didn't feel like they got a fair shake because they were clearly there to be a certain thing. And it wasn't the expert. And even if somebody starts off not knowing a ton, anybody else, like, you start as a noob, you start level 1, which is the dagger and magic missile, and then you get good, you level up, you learn. But they were never required to learn, because read the teleprompter. They don't necessarily want these women to know a ton, because that's not their job. I have a real issue with this. So anybody that I would bring on a show like this, they'd have to really know. And that doesn't mean you know everything. Like if somebody's just an Xbox gamer, that's fine. If they're really passionate about Xbox, we get somebody else who knows PC and somebody else who knows PlayStation and Nintendo, and nobody can play all the games, right? It's, nobody can, there's just too many games. And I, first and foremost, want somebody to know what they're talking about. And then, because you know what? The other thing I find is that people have a much larger idea of what's attractive than people recognize. And so then I get into, well, do we have women? I mean, for instance, for guys who like bigger women, do we cast a woman for those people knowing that that woman's going to get shit on by assholes? I mean, those are the difficult, I guess it would be, look, the job is for you to be, beautiful to this contingent of viewer. Some people are going to be dicks. We support you, don't worry. And I don't know, it's so tough because I went through that experience of starting on TV and going through the ringer and just getting ground up and not having a mentor to talk me through it, to say, look, this happens to everybody, this is how you handle it. I had to figure it out all on myself. And I don't want to put another woman through that. I'd want to make sure, because it gets really rough before you come out the other side. And this is why I'm such an ardent defender of gaming culture and gamers, is that I know how rough it is on women in other forms of entertainment. And I come over with gamers and it's better. It's better. It's more accepting. Gamers give everybody a rough ride at first, but if you show you know what you're talking about, gamers embrace that. Doesn't mean they'll agree with you all the time. You don't want people to agree all the time. You disagree respectfully. And gamers are amazing that way. I mean, I was going to talk about this before, and now it makes sense to talk about it. At the Lady Bits party last night, we talked politics, we talked social justice, all this stuff. I hate that term. You guys know I hate that term, but that's what it was. And it was a respectful conversation where people disagreed. We were actually talking about Black Lives Matter, gay pride, and the Toronto police at a Hooters in downtown Toronto. And it was, I said from the beginning of the conversation, I said, guys, I am going to play devil's advocate because everybody around the table was essentially left wing. And it was a really good conversation. And then Julian was buying drinks from Michigan, so it got quite animated. But it was a great conversation, and people were excited to have their ideas challenged. And people brought up different points without it being, you're a terrible person for not thinking the way I do. And there was a lot of, that's one way of looking at it. But then there's this experience, and there's this experience, and there's this experience, and all of them were treated as interesting and kind of valid, and we got into the whole history of Pride and how, Toronto Pride used to be a very, AIDS, people lying down on the ground, represent the people who died, and then it became this party event, this giant block party for a weekend, because that brought in the mega tourist bucks. And, we talked about the whole history of it and the various counterpoints to people, the black people who don't like Black Lives Matter. And it was really, really interesting. It was a really good conversation, and nobody ended up hating each other at the end. Everybody felt like it was a really good discussion. People felt energized. And it shows that these discussions are really possible. And it's just, and I don't believe it's the internet. I don't believe, because we've had some, some complex, we were talking about politics earlier today and nobody lost their poop. Everybody's kind of like, you can disagree, that's cool, but we disagree respectfully. It's not about the internet. It's about what people are using the internet to press, and the fact that they're using the internet as an online lynch mob, and that shouldn't be allowed. It's not a question of your opinions. It's how you express those opinions and how you make space for other people to express their opinions. Because I heard some viewpoints that were interesting. I don't necessarily agree with them, but I don't know if this makes sense. You can see a person's point, but not adopt the viewpoint, if that makes any sense. And that's partially, that's what I like about those conversations, is at least you can say, total subject change. Orcar, you're mocked for liking Babylon 5? Really? I love Babylon 5. That's, wow. I was actually in Claudia Christian's house, old houses ago. It was so cool. She's so awesome. She's super fun person. Tons of fun, crazy talented. That's interesting. The ability to entertain a thought without accepting it is the mark of an educated mind. Yeah. Which is funny, because there's a lot of educated people who aren't educated then. Because I find a lot of people are just, I did miss it, Yoshi, sorry. Whatever you said. Would I be willing to do a normal video on time management? Like just a general time management video? I could. What would that be a Momo Monday? Because it is kind of a life skill thing. I can do that. Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that before. Sorry, it's Yosei, right? I go Yoshi's like dang, dang. I love Yoshi. Yoshi's my favorite Mario character. Dang, Yoshi. But yeah, so it comes out Yoshi, but it's Yosei. Yeah. I am a scheduler. Sunbro said it as well. You do have to schedule. There's more to it than that. Time management, I'll get to it sooner or later. Maybe I'll do that for Monday. Because yeah, it's a fair, and it is something you can learn. It's a trained skill. Momo Monday's time management is schedule 60 naps a day, and sometimes one nap. Tang. Let's do the Yoshi again. I always end up doing voices in this chat. That's kind of funny. Yoshi. I love Yoshi. I love Yoshi's Woolly World. I was like, I want to play so much. Yoshi is do the different Yoshis, I forget now, it's been so long. Yoshi's Japanese for fairy? I thought it was friend. Oh, Yosei is fairy. You're right. Okay. Okay. Can Cisco be president of the Earthicans? Yoshi is a rainbow species. Okay. Thanks, Goblin Hero. Will I be more popular if I act like Yoshi? I don't know. I mean, You won't really be popular in the Koopa Kingdom. They kind of don't like Yoshi. And I mean, Yoshi kind of goes around and... what I love about Yoshi is he, like, eats his friends, spits them out, and they like him anyway. We don't really know Yoshi's a he, do we? We assume he's a he, but he lays eggs. Or she lays eggs. So you'd think Yoshi would be a girl. And... I mean, okay, so you want people riding me? Well, that I wouldn't bother. The shitting eggs sounds really painful. Wow. This is... See? Yes, Jolly. I'm all about Kirby. Kirby over Yoshi. Because Kirby doesn't just eat things. He eats them to cosplay. And when Kirby turns that little tank and the little plane and the little boat, and that is the greatest shit in video games if you're in the right mood. Freaking love Kirby. Like Yoshi Sovereign, they made a Could you imagine a Yoshi Reaper? That would be so funny. Yeah, they did. Okay, they did refer to Yoshi's gender as a he. So what? Is Yoshi like a seahorse that they keep the eggs? Like, see, Nintendo does this. And this is what I love about Nintendo. They just do stuff. They don't care if it makes sense. And then the rest of us like obsess over it as if it's terribly important and it's really not. Somebody just went, okay, Yoshi, and he's going to be this little dragon guy who's kind of a lizard and goes, tung, and Yoshi, and all that stuff. And he's going to get ridden by Italian plumbers that look a bit like Ron Jeremy. And you're never going to unsee that anymore. But that's okay, because that's why Nintendo's fun. You can make it as innocent or as dirty as you want. And that's why sexy Princess Peach cosplays exist. And, yeah, what are the eggs? The Kirby games where all the men share health recovery items by kissing. Oh, that's true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these characters just sort of became this thing of what can we make look recognizable with crappy graphics. I mean, people way overthink the whole Mario thing. In Super Mario World, we're not going to see Mario punches him. It's true. It's true. Mario punches Yoshi in the back of the head to use his tongue. It's 50 Shades of Grey. It's... Okay, this is a good time to stop. We're getting punchy. Literally. But anybody got any questions before we call it? This is a good one. We were up to almost 100 people again. It didn't end on poop. It ended up on 50 Shades of Yoshi. It ended up on Mario punching Yoshi in the back of the head to lick things. Yeah, I'll leave you on Mario BDSM if somebody doesn't, I figured that was a good time to check out. I'm getting really weird. So, oh, Michael, you must have missed the discussion about the computers. Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. Video topic. How I decided on Ladybiz topics. That'll be really short, but I could do that for sure. I'm gonna have thoughts of Yoshi dressed up as a gimp. You better photo manip that, because that's pretty awesome. Have I ever played Bloodborne? Yes. Bloodborne really killed my hands. I actually, my favorite Bloodborne video I made is, you know, those charged attacks where you go up behind somebody and you go, and it's this big old like thrust thing, right? Well, you know those giant kind of pig things in Bloodborne? And so I learned the hard way that you go up behind one of the big things and you do that thing with the sword, and it looks like you're just anal fisting the giant pig until he dies. And that was my favorite Bloodborne video, because that's how you game right. Yeah, I got the spider fight mid-game on that thing. I hated. And then after that, you finally get through that, and there's that wizard guy that is, it's just so, I find it so cheap. I like the big monster fights in Bloodborne. I did not like the humanoid enemy fights. I thought they were just cheap. Like, there's getting your ass handed to you fun, and then there's just dying rapidly, and the load screen takes longer than you have a chance to play. And having to go through the cutscene and everything like that over and over and over again. That kind of territory, no thanks. Yeah, Rom the spider. And it wasn't, that was an alright design fight. And if my hands were not busted, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But, oh, my wrist hurt so bad. The constant strafing so that you didn't get hit. I was actually ending up to beat him. I actually had to put my hand on top of the stick to move it. It hurt so bad, or switch to fingers, and then I couldn't use these. It was an awful fight that way. And, you know, when you're doing a constant strafe that way, it is very hard on people's hands. Julian asks, so I missed part of the stream. You're going to do another Lady Bits Kickstarter party, then today you're going to relax for the weekend. I got something to do tomorrow. We're up to, we're under 500 now. Yeah, I was hoping to kind of roll over it so we could celebrate live. Yeah, we'll have to maybe, I'll see how it goes. Yeah, we're $483 from stretch goal, so we'll make it. Just kills me. JRPGs that I enjoy. I used to play the shit out of the early Final Fantasy games. I haven't had as much time to play Fire Emblem Fates as I wanted, but I really enjoy that game series. Those are probably the two. I bailed out of Final Fantasy after 9. I kind of saw how it was going. 10. Odds of reaching 4K goal. We'll see. It's possible. It really all depends on how many people, like, it's 4.5 days to go now. So we'll see. It is possible that we could hit that. It'll just have to be a big push at the end. Yeah, spread the word, guys. Like, just the more you can plaster this Kickstarter on your social networks, you'll never know who will see it. The woman Blue I was talking about that just showed up to the party, didn't know anybody. She saw it on a friend's Facebook page. And I have played the Heroes of Might and Magic games. What was it? World of Zine? Yeah, so yeah, if you can share, that helps. You never know who's going to see it. It also brings new people in just to sort of make aware of it. So, you know, you guys have already backed. I appreciate it. If you can't afford to back, you can still share. Twist people's arms and basically go, I can't share. Could you get it for me? We do accept that for names on set. Because I don't want anybody to feel like they can't, you know, they need to be able to, even if they can't afford it. So, yeah. Thanks, Patches. That's awesome. But yeah, just spread the word. That's the best thing you can do right now. And then we'll just hope for a big rally in the last 48 hours. That's why I kind of want to, I got to do something with my family tomorrow. I shouldn't sound so down on that, but it means I can't play video games. But, oh dear, Julian. Julian had to explain to his mom who Beelzebub was. Of course. Oh my God. Isn't that the way with families who don't understand games? They find the thing they know is going to be most objectionable to normies. And I do like Warhammer 40K. But they find the thing that's most objectionable. I remember this thing, my nephew was big into Dragon Age and we were talking about it. And so this shrew friend of the family gets on her phone and starts gasping. Because of course she finds a video of like male warden boffing Zevran or something like that. Which is of course something that my nephew would never encounter. Because he didn't make those choices. He's not exposed to that stuff in game. You have to actively, and she just made it like I was corrupting this sweet little boy. And the great thing about this guy, he didn't care about the romance options at all. He just wanted to be a badass dwarf with a giant axe and run around killing monsters, you know? And I was you can tell I'm still angry because that's, you know, like, that's not the game. That's a portion of the game you can choose to engage with. And even if he did find that thing, so what? It's not hardcore porn. It's a romance. Back when they actually were romances instead of... did you guys play Saints Row 4? The parodies of the BioWare romances in Saints Row 4. They were parodies at the time, but they have since become what BioWare romances actually are. My favorite one was just like, instead of it being these big, long, you know, ramped up things, you know, all this talking to get to the whole thing. In Saints Row, it's just like the first prompt is, you know, like romance or something like that. You hit the button and it just goes, "Hey Kinsey, let's fuck," and they do it. And like, that's pretty much PB in Mass Effect Andromeda now. It just yeah, there is a thing called MomoCon, Helen, but yeah, I've said I'm gonna go a bazillion times now and people ask good questions, so I am going to wrap there on this rant. At least we didn't end up on Nintendo character sex acts. And now everybody's talking about video games. You guys can keep talking about video games for as long as you want. Please continue. That's awesome. And yes, Dylan, I love Shondi too. Although Johnny Gat, Saints Row Dragon Water is like a Grand Theft Auto style crime game, only nuts and farcical instead of dreary and satirical. But oh, Julian, you had to explain cosplay to your mom too? It's Halloween every day. Oh dear. They should make Momo the mascot of MomoCon. But I don't remember what I was gonna say. Oh God. Oh, I remember the romance option for Johnny Gat in Saints Row 4, the parody. I was like, because Johnny Gat is a terrifying dude. He's the most dangerous man in the whole universe, according to the game. And so I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna beat the crap out of me if I attempt the romance option. And they totally took it a different way, and it was so glorious. It was so funny. Yeah. Saints Row. Cannot say enough good things about the Saints Row games. They are very, very funny. And any game where one of the villains is a giant energy drink can is good by me. Which makes me realize I need water because I'm really thirsty. Okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, my face is tired too, Simon. We'll end it there. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you. Momo Monday is going to be about time management. And then we'll be live streaming again on Tuesday which will be close to wrap. I'll check that. I'll check the date. But thank you. Bye.